I need a red color, guys. A very thin red membrane appears. What's the name of this membrane called? I'll show you. Then what happens to these green cells, guys? These green cells are also growing. These green cells will become, actually this red one appears in the third stage, but we cannot see it, so that's why I've drawn it here.
I think it's on the other side.
Okay. Now the cells are not flat anymore, they're cube shaped, isn't it? So now can you get a similar question? So this one now, what is the change? The change is that these flat cells have become bigger. Now they're cuboidal, agree?
Okay.
They're cuboidal now, right?
Okay.
So in this case, when the cells from flat they have grown and they are more cube shaped, what do you call this whole follicle now? You call it now?
Primary.
You are the best. You call it the primary follicle. Is that clear, guys?
Mm-hmm.
If it says what is this whole thing, you say this is the what follicle?
Primary.
Why do you call it primary? Because now we don't have simple squamous, instead we have a simple cuboidal epithelium around it, right, guys? And if it's pointing to this this cell in the middle, this black cell in the middle, what's that cell?
Okay.
It's still a oocyte, isn't it?
Okay.
That's still an oocyte. But if it's pointing to these cells, guys, again, if it says what is epithelium, it will hardly ask, but it's simple cuboidal epithelium.
Yeah.
But same questions, again, same 4 questions. If it is pointing to these cells, what is the name of these cells? What will you call?
Granular.
Oh, guys, it's written here.
What?
Why granular? How many layers are these?
So it's still follicular.
It's still follicular. Why I said that one layer is follicular, isn't it?
Okay. This is hard.
Why is it hard? Can it be easier than this? I said one layer, you call it follicular.
Because I thought like
No, don't think, look at it. Again, same questions, guys. This question number 1. What is the name of the cell?
Oocyte.
Okay. And again, number 2, what is this whole follicle?
Primary.
Same thing, okay? I'm repeating the same thing, then it's easier now, isn't it?
Okay.
And question number 4, what is the name of these cells called?
Follicular.
Still follicular cells. It's one layer of cells. It's one layer,
That's
still
very
follicular
true.
cells. Does it make sense or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they ask the tissue, it's some.
Okay, and this additional one structure now that you can see, usually it appears on the next follicle, but sometimes it appears here, and I've seen it on the exam. So if it is pointing to this, this one here is a thin membrane. It's not a cell, it's still a thin membrane, glycoprotein. This membrane number 5 is called the, what is it called?
Zona.
You are awesome. It's called the zona pellucida. Yes?
Yep.
So are we done with 2 follicles?
Yeah.
So only the zona pellucida is gonna only show up on the primary follicle.
Usually starts in the secondary, but I have seen occasionally on the primary. That's why I've drawn it here. Okay, guys? Right. It starts primary, but mostly it's on the secondary, right? But you can still see it here. That's why I've drawn it here. All right, guys? Are you guys good so far?
Mm-hmm.
So are we done with 2 follicles? What's the next follicle called?
Secondary follicle.
Secondary. So now these are growing. Yes, guys. These are happening when? During the first 14 days of the cycle of the female, isn't it? What happens next? This is still there.
The zona.
And what is this membrane around it? Thin membrane?
The zona pellucida.
This is still the zona pellucida. And now what happens to the cells? They keep dividing. So instead of 1 layer of cells, there are now how many layers of cells?
2.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, depends, right? It keeps growing throughout the 14. That's it. You have these 3, 4 layers of cells. All right, guys? And one last thing that happens during this is that a bunch of these cells on the outside, they fuse with the connective tissue, and these cells look more like these fibers. What do they look like?
Fibers?
Yeah, they look like these long cells. You with me, guys? They look like what? These longish cells. All right. So now again, the same questions. What's this thing in the middle, number 1?
Oocyte.
Good job. That's oocyte. And what else? What is this full structure now called?
Secondary
You are the
follicle.
best. It's not primary anymore. It's called the what?
Secondary.
Follicle. You can do that.
Uh-huh.
And number 3, these cells, you don't need to know, but number 4, what is the name of these cells now called? Can anyone tell me?
Oh, those are granules.
Now they are granules, there are more than one. If it's 2 layers or 10 layers cells, now you don't call them follicular cells. What do you call them, guys?
Granules.
Now they are granules. Is it easy now?
Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe.
Yes, they are called what cells?
Granules.
Granulosa cells. And what is this red thing still called number 5?
That is zona pellucida.
Yeah, you're making me ask the question again, but it makes sense now, right? It's basically the same question. The only thing that changes the cells, instead of follicular, became granulosa now. Why? Because There are more than one layer of cells.
Yep.
Right, Seema? And another thing that is new are these blue cells, isn't it? Along with the granulosa cells, we have these another set of cells, number 6 here, these guys. These are called the pica cells. What are they called?
People?
Pica. Look at your lips.
Oh,
What are they called?
Pica.
Pica, isn't it?
Oops, you don't make grape.
Oh, God.
Yeah, no.
You don't see it here?
No, no, no.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I thought it was on the
It should be
tertiary.
here, but the department is not, so don't worry.
Is
Okay.
that on tertiary?
Yeah, Pica will start up here. It should be here, but don't worry. It should be on the next one. Okay, but they start appearing here. Okay, don't worry about that at this
Okay.
one. Sorry. Okay, what happens next? So while this is growing, guys, listen to me. While this is growing, these spaces start appearing here. What happens here, guys?
Spaces.
Start appearing in between the cells, and all those spaces get big and big, and all those spaces unite together, and it makes a really big space now. What will happen this on day 14? What will happen to this on day 14 of the monthly cycle? Very close to ovulation. What will happen? Again, this is the what? This is the oocyte. Yes, agree?
Yes, sir.
This is the oocyte. What is this?
Zona pellucida.
Good job. And what are these cells around it? Many layers of cells here. What are these cells?
Granulosa.
Still granulosa cells, isn't it?
Mhm.
And let's say these are a bunch of granulosa cells that form this stalk-like structure. And that remember that I said that there are many spaces up here, and all those spaces unite. It forms a really big space now. You listening to me?
Yes.
You got it. So basically, all these cells are getting bigger and bigger. You understand what I did? All these are cells. What are these?
Granulosa.
These are all the cells. Is that clear, guys?
Yes.
What do you call granulosa?
Hold on. Did I finish yet?
Oh.
Oh, let me finish. Then I. So what is this thing? This is the space that appeared, isn't it, guys? What do we call this space, Karina? It's called the antrum, isn't it? What is it called? Antrum or a vesicle. It's basically the space, right, Karina? And fluid appears here. What appears here?
Fluid.
Fluid appears here. So broken item breaker.
I
I'm
know it's
sorry.
broken. It's
Okay.
broken. Broke it this morning.
Antrum. Sorry. So that's antrum, right, guys? So you understand how this space appeared, right? All the spaces that are happening, they started uniting, and yeah, it formed this structure. Is that clear?
Oh, I did see that.
All right. So basically, the space is in between all the granulosa cells. Agree? And now these blue things appear here. Where's the blue thing? These blue cells will appear on the outside. You following me, guys? Yes or no?
Yeah. Okay, so that's
Now let me ask you questions again. Generally, this black thing in the middle is the oocyte, zona pellucida, and all these green cells are the granulosa cells. Agree? They're not. Why aren't they follicular, guys? Why don't we call them follicular? It's more than one layer. Good job, Karina. You're the best. More than one layer of cells. And what are these blue cells on the outside called? They are pica cells. But now we are not finished yet with the. This is called the what follicle? Not the secondary.
tertiary.
It's called the tertiary. It's also called the antral or the vesicular. It's a really huge thing, right? It has all these different graphene. It has all these 4 or 5 names. But the tertiary would work for the exam, right? So now some extra thing you have to remember now is that these are still the granulosa cells. Agree or not? However, the bunch of granulosa cells, all of them are granulosa, but the bunch of granulosa cells that are covering the zona pellucida and oocyte is called the corona radiata. So this whole region. What are these cells called?
The
Corona radiata.
Okay, what does the word corona mean? Like a crown, isn't it? So these are the bunch of cells surrounding, like a crown, they're surrounding the zona pellucida and the what? Oocyte. So this is called the what, guys? Carolyn, that's called the corona radiata, right? You are awesome. And there's another bunch of cells. Can you see this area here, guys? This area of cells, it's like a bunch of cells that is connecting this corona radiata to the rest of the granulosa cell. Agree? So what do we call these? It was lying. Awesome. So, guys, we call this the cumulus oophorus. What do we call it?
Cumulus oophorus.
It's called the cumulus oophorus. What's cumulus oophorus? So guys, it will not always be this really nice stuff like structure. It is basically the bunch of cells. You listen to me, guys. I keep talking. You never listen to me. So the bunch of cells that are connecting the coronary radiata, this whole area of cells that is connecting the corona radiata to the remainder of the cells, that is called the cumulus oophorus. And at the time, guys, on day 14, when ovulation is taking place, basically what happens, guys? This breaks here. It breaks here, so this is going to the fallopian tube. Isn't that amazing? Say yes.
Yes.
All right. That's good. Everyone knows now in this picture. Everyone knows where the oocyte is. Everyone knows where the zona pellucida is. Everyone knows where the coronary radiata is. Everyone knows where the cumulus oophorus is.
Yeah.
And all these cells, if it's pointed to any of these cells here, these are called the what cells? Are they follicular? No, they're granulosa, right, guys? They're granulosa cells. What are these blue cells on the outside? You are the best, guys. They are the Pica cells. Does that make sense now? So if you go in order, it makes sense now, right? You don't have to memorize it. You just have to understand it, right? So did everyone sign up, guys? Did you sign? You are the best, guys. Thank you so much. Any questions? Yeah?
Please call us.
Isn't it, guys? You understand what I said? When it breaks here, this goes to the fallopian tube. So what stays behind in the ovary, guys? The green and the blue cells. Agree? Basically, whatever stays behind, you have a bunch of green cells now. Yes or no?
Yes, the granulosa and then the thicker cells stay behind.
Excellent. And we have the Pica cell behind. You with me, guys? So this stays behind in the end. So this is what? This whole thing, this is the corpus luteum. What is this?
The corpus luteum.
This is the corpus luteum. What does our corpus mean? The whole body. Luteum is yellow again. In the real ovary, it looks yellowish structure. That's called corpus luteum. But now this whole structure is called what, guys? Corpus
luteum.
So if it says what is this whole thing, you say this is the what is this whole full structure, guys? Corpus luteum. And these green cells, they are still the granulosa. What are these cells, guys?
The granulosa.
Granulosa cells, you are the best with line. Since they are the granulosa cells, but since they are part of the corpus luteum, you have to add the word lutein now. So that your professor knows that. So your professor knows that you know that this is the corpus luteum. Is that clear? And what are these blue cells called, guys?
Pica.
They're called Pica, but you're not just going to write Pica here, you're going to write Pica
Oh.
lutein. Isn't that amazing?
That makes sense.
So you see, you don't memorize, so no, you know each and every term there, right, guys? You cannot get this wrong. If you get this wrong, it's really bad. I know this is tough, guys. I'm kidding. This is really tough. This is the toughest part of the histology. It makes sense, right?
Yeah. Can we go over them on the picture?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go over them on picture, but
You need to do this.
I wanted to mention it. So, guys, listen to me. Sometimes on the exam, you can get the secondary, a bigger picture, but you see a small space. Sometimes small spaces will appear. So, for example, if you go all the way back, from a picture from your book, where is it? What did you do with them? Here. So, if you look at these pictures, can you see in the secondary, you can see the spaces starting appearing, right, guys? So I've seen if spaces start appearing, some students mistakenly call this tertiary. It's not tertiary yet. How will you differentiate that? Even some spaces appear there, it will still be secondary. How will you differentiate between secondary and tertiary? In the tertiary, yes?
The ancient?
You also have antrum here, so these small spaces are antrum.
It still has
Yes, Carolyn?
it will still have the oocyte and the zona pellucida.
So this also has oocyte and this also has. The main difference is it will have a clear corona radiata, and you will also see a bunch of cells connecting it to the rest. Is that clear? So this whole structure is called the cumulus oophorus. Is that clear? So you just came late. You want me to go over it really quickly? 2 minutes? Are you good?
Okay.
You good, guys? All right. So let's see 4 structures, guys. You can see this empty white cytoplasm plus this nucleus in the middle. What's this cell in the middle, guys? This
Okay.
Everyone understand this? The oocyte. And can you see this one layer of cells around it? The flat cells. So what is the name of these cells called? Are they granulosa or they're follicular cells?
Follicular.
Why are they follicular cells? Because it's one layer of cells. Is that clear? But what is, if it says what is this full structure? What is this full structure?
Is that primordial?
Primordial follicle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Flat.
You awesome, Karen. You got it, guys? So now let's look at secondary. Yeah, I don't have a secondary on these pictures, but later on I'll show you secondary, okay? Keep going. Yeah, that's good. So if you look at this one, what type of epithelium is this here, guys? Is it still flat?
No, simple cuboidal.
Simple cuboidal now, right? It's simple cuboidal, agree? And so if this, and how many layers is it? Is it one layer of cells or two layers of cells or
One.
three? It's just one, right? So if it's pointing to these cells, it's obviously simple cuboidal, but if it says, what is the name of these cells? Sorry.
Follicular.
They are still follicular. Why? Because it's still one layer of cells. Is that clear, guys?
Okay.
Yes? And what is this cell in the middle, this whole cytoplasm plus the nucleus? What's this whole cell? Oh God, what's the name of this? Oocyte. It's still oocyte, isn't it?
Yes.
It's still the oocyte, right, guys? It's still the oocyte. And what is the name of the full follicle?
Primary follicle.
Primary follicle. So everyone knows the difference between the primary and the primordial. I'll show you secondary later, okay, guys? So now let's look at this one of the tertiary, okay? Here, this is a tertiary. Now, why? How do I know this is tertiary? You have a big antrum, but as I said, this spaces can also appear here, but there will be smaller spaces. So this is a really huge one, and also you can see the primary. What's this pink thing around the cell?
Zona pellucida.
Now you got a zona pellucida. Good job, good job, good job. And here also, if you look at this picture here around the cell, can you see this pink covering? That's still the
Zona pellucida.
zona pellucida. You awesome, Karina. Okay. Oh, what did I do? Good, guys? This is the antrum, agree? What do we have in the antrum? We have fluid.
Yep.
And what is this cell in the middle?
Oocyte.
Oocyte. What's this pink thing around it?
Zona pellucida.
What are these cells?
The corona.
Awesome. And even though this is not like a stalk, but this bunch of cells, this area that's connecting this part to the rest of the granulosa cells, what do you call this area?
The cumulus or
Oophorus. And all these remainder of the cells, all these cells, these are called the what cell?
Chica.
Oh no, the pink ones. Oh God, these are the
Oh, granulosa.
granulosa cells. And can you see these line-like cells around it very clearly? Everyone can see the difference between these cells and these cells.
Yep.
So these are the granulosa. And what are these cells outside?
Chica.
These are theca cells, right? Correct, Carolyn? These are the theca cells. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And once ovulation takes place, this part goes away, and this antrum later fills with blood, and these cells get bigger. So if you see a bunch of cells and this fiber-like cells around it, this whole thing. Can you see these bunch of cells? And can you see this bunch of cells around it? So these are, this is the wrong label. This is from very 20 years old. So what do you call these cells, guys?
Oocytes.
Oh God, I said, what are these cells?
Granulosa.
There's no oocyte here anymore in the corpus
Oh my
luteum.
God, you're right.
The oocyte has gone to the fallopian tube. What are these cells? Lutein. Carolyn, did you hear what Carolyn said? They are the granulosa lutein cells. And what are the cells around it called?
The theca lutein.
Now you got it. What's this full structure?
This is the corpus luteum.
This is the corpus luteum, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes?
Wow.
Okay. That wasn't bad, was it? So now let's look at all the pictures that are unlabeled. So, guys, really quickly, yes?
Professor, what's the difference in the question when you're asking for the answer corpus luteum
So what is this full structure?
and when you expect the answer tertiary?
Yeah, you see a picture to say, what is this full thing? If you see this whole thing, you're not going to call this tertiary, are you?
No.
So is that
that's
your
the
question?
Corpus
Yes.
luteum.
And in the previous picture, if it says, what is this thing? Now you say,
Oh yeah.
yes?
Thank you.
Right, guys? All right.
Can I have the test now?
Not now. You guys good or no? So now let's look at and again, I went over this, anyone who came late, the ovary has two parts, medulla and the cortex. This outer thin layer is called the what? Tunica albuginea for the cortex. The inner layer where all the follicles are sitting. What's the follicle, anyone? What's the follicle?
It's the oocyte plus the membrane.
Oh, you heard what I say. It's
Nice.
the oocyte plus the membrane, isn't it, guys? And there are how many types of follicles you need to know? Four of them, right? Primordial, primary, tertiary, and the corpus luteum is not a follicle anymore, right? All right, where were we? What happened to it? Yeah, let's go over the pictures that are not labeled, okay? You label them? Oh God, then why are we looking at this? Okay.
Well, I was trying to practice. I'm not even sure if they're right.
It's your computer, yeah, you can do whatever you want, right? So here, guys, so when you're looking at this, can you see this one layer of cells here, guys? Usually the cuboidal, This is outside of the ovary. What would you call these cells?
Germinal
Germinal.
epithelium.
That's a germinal epithelium, agree? And
Okay.
first of all, you have to identify that this is the ovary, right, guys? It's an ovary because you see a lot of follicles here, isn't it? And what is this thin layer of connective tissue here?
That's tunica.
Albuginea, good job. And what is this remainder of the connective tissue here? Where you have all the follicles, that's a stroma. So on the exam, if it says what is this sublayer or specific layer, what would you say?
Stroma.
What is this specific or sublayer?
Tunica albuginea.
But if it says what is this full layer?
Cortex.
Word is layer, right? The keyword layer. That's a cortex. Good job. And what is this thin layer of cells on the surface?
Germinal
That
epithelium.
is you got it, guys. What to expect on the exam? All right. Here now. So basically now we are going to look at follicles. All right, we are going to look at follicles. So you can see these 4 follicles on here on the side. They're all one layer of flat cells, isn't it? Oh, you are the best. Awesome. All these are follicles, guys.
Primordial.
They are all primordial. Why? Because it is made up of a thin layer of cells. So on the exam, on these primordial follicles, you should be able to tell if it's pointing to the cell in the middle. What's the name of this cell?
Oocyte.
And what is the name of these cells?
Follicular.
You're awesome, guys. You're awesome. These are follicular cells. And if you look at this one, guys, these are more cuboidal, isn't it? Agree or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Primary.
No.
Yes, you're right. So what is the name of this cell in the middle?
Oocyte.
Oocyte. And if these are simple cuboidal, what is this follicle now?
Primary.
Agree? Primary follicle. And what is the name of these cells?
Follicular.
Everyone agrees it's follicular baseline.
Yes.
That's the follicular cells. All right? It wasn't so bad.
Wait, then what was the one on top?
Yeah, there is dividing. That's why I didn't ask this. Okay?
Oh, okay.
You can see that this cells start dividing. They become more columnar. They're about to divide. I will still call it primary, but they're about to divide and make multiple
But you can
layers.
see zone like zona.
Pellucida.
Yes, very good observation. Thank you so much, Baseline. Can you see this pink line around the cell? Can you see this pink membrane, guys?
Yeah.
That's the zona.
Pellucida.
Pellucida. Right, Sima? And see, the antrum starts forming, but you will not call this tertiary. Why? Because in the tertiary, this antrum should be this big. You understand that? So this is still what, guys? This is still what?
Secondary.
It is not primordial. It's not primary. So it is a
Secondary.
secondary. If this is secondary, you can hardly see the zona, right, guys? You can see zona pellucida here. What would you call these cells?
Granulosa.
Everyone agrees they are the granulosa cells. Even though it's not on your list, but even if you get it, guys, these are the theca cells outside, right? Agree or not? Anything around the granulosa cells are the what cells? Theca cells. Agree? Yeah. And this is the antrum, right? This space is called the what?
Antrum.
Initial antrum, right? So this is a good picture for secondary. Okay, right? Here also you can see that. Yeah. So much. So this is still a secondary. Agree? This is the oocyte, the zona pellucida. What cells are these?
Granulosa.
You are awesome. Can you bring that into picture? You are the best. Thank you so much. What is this cell here, guys? Oocyte. And what's this membrane around it? Zona pellucida. This is one layer of cuboidal cells. What cells are these?
Follicular cells.
You are the best. They are the follicular cells. But if it says what is this full follicle called? It's the primary, isn't it?
And then what is this one then? But
This is
Secondary.
secondary?
Yeah.
And then this one is also secondary?
So this one again, I would call it primary, all right? Even though it's getting more columnar now, but still it's one layer of cells, isn't it? I would go with, but yeah, on the exam it will be really, you ask all those. Are you guys good? Keep it simple. Okay, now look at this. This is a big one, all right? I don't like this picture a lot. I don't like the zona. It's really thick, the zona pellucida. Oh God, who's that granulosa?
Corona.
And what is this region? What is
That's the
this region?
forest.
Or this area is called cumulus force. What are these cells called here?
Those are granulosas.
And what are these cells on the outside?
Theca.
You are the best, guys. And what's its full structure, guys?
Tertiary
You
follicle.
are the best. You got it, everyone?
Yeah.
Seema, you good? So now, in ovulation, this thing will go away into the where? Fallopian tube. We don't have egg anymore. So all the granulosa and theca cells that are left behind, now this whole structure. What are these cells in the middle called, anyone?
Granulosa lutein.
Yes. And what are this bunch of cells on the outside?
Theca
Theca lutein. What's this full structure?
corpus luteum.
It's not that bad anymore, is it?
Kind of, but it's
Still bad?
it's just the tertiary because there's like more to it, and then
The tertiary, because you guys, for the tertiary, you should be looking for the corona radiata and the cumulus oporus. You understand? Get the sperm produced here. So for the testes, one thing we need to know is that there's a connective tissue, one layer of connective tissue on the outside. What do you call this thick fibrous connective tissue on the side? It's the tunica what?
albumin.
Right? Yeah, just to give you a hard time, guys. The second part I don't like it, but just to give you a hard time, there's another layer of connective tissue here. What do we have here, guys? But here you see blood vessels. What will you see here?
Blood
Blood
vessels.
vessels.
So if you see blood vessels and around the blood vessels, you clearly see connective tissue. The second layer, you will call this layer what, guys? This is the tunica vasculosa. So this is extra stuff, but then we will get to the what? Seminary tubule. You with me, guys, so far? All right. So, guys, when you look at the seminary tubules, around the seminary tubules, we will have obviously just like an epithelial tissue. If there's one layer of cells, what do we call that epithelium? Simple, right? And if you have many layers, what do we call it? Stratified. So all these seminiferous tubules, let's say this is one of the seminiferous tubules. I'm just drawing one of them here. Okay, guys, what is this? This is one seminiferous tubule. Okay, I'll draw three. What are these, guys? These are seminiferous tubules. And what do you call this opening in the middle, guys?
The lumen.
You are the best Korean, and did you hear that, guys? That's the lumen, isn't it? That is the lumen. And just like any other epithelium, we have a basement membrane, agree or no? So what's this connective tissue on the outside called here, guys? That's the what? Everyone understand this, guys? What is this, guys? Basement membrane. So you know where the basement membrane is, and you know where the lumen is. And I'll write it down here. Please make sure you understand it, and I'll ask you a question. So yeah, don't make me yell, all right? Guys, I'll write it down here for you, and then you can look. We will have cells here. What did I say, guys?
Cells.
We will have cells in between the tubules. What are these cells called? They are called the? Oh, you already know this stuff. You good? They're called the Leydig cells. Okay, guys, they're called the what cells?
Later.
So on the exam, it's pointing to this interstitial tissue around, and if it's pointing to these cells, it says, what are these cells? You say these are the Leydig cells. And inside the tubules, there are two types of cells. How many types of cells, guys? Inside the tubules, there are two types of cells. How many types?
Two.
One set of cells, again, there are many layers of cells. So one set of cells, they are basically sperm in different stages of formation. What did I say, guys?
Sperm.
Different stages of formation. What are the very early stages called? Spermatogonia, or one is called gonium, isn't it, guys? Agree? Very early stages called spermatogonia, and then we have those primary spermatocytes, secondary spermatocytes for the lecture. But for the lab, you just need to know spermatocytes. Agree or not? Yes? Say yes.
Yes.
So you don't have to, on this histological slide, you don't have to differentiate between primary and secondary. You just need to know where the spermatocytes are. The third type of sperm cells, basically these are the spermatogenic cells. What are these cells? What is spermatogenic? You don't need to know this word, but spermatogenic means they're related to sperm, different formation. Correct. Third stage is called, again, the sperm are produced, but they are not mature yet, they're rounded in shape. What are those sperm called?
Spermatid.
Baseline here. Spermatid. Baseline is awesome. What are they called, guys? Spermatid. What's a spermatid, guys? Basically a sperm, but it is round. It is not anything like a sperm yet. It has to become a sperm. So when the spermatid is this rounded shape, yes, guys, and this converts into this head and this mate and the tail, now it's a sperm, isn't it? And again, even when a sperm is produced, initially those sperms are really immature. They cannot do their job. So the immature sperm are called what, number 4? Spermatozoon is one, and many are zoa. Right, guys? Right, guys?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Everyone understand what are the first type of cells? They're sperm-related cells, and there are 4 types. Everyone understand what I just did? And the second type of cells are the cells that help formation of sperm. And where are they found, guys? Are they found inside the tubule or outside the tubule? Yes, Caroline, good job. You saved them. Otherwise, I was going to yell at someone. Oh, that wasn't Caroline? Oh, still with them. Thank you so much. So, yeah, thank you. So, that's number 2 is the certolized cells. What are they, guys?
Certolized.
They're certolized cells. And you have studied this in the lecture. I'm not going to go over the detail. These are just helping these cells form. Is that clear? Okay. So now obviously everyone knows where to find the Leydig cells. Now we are going to look at these 4 cells in this cell, how to identify them on the exam. I'll explain it to you. Please listen carefully how to identify them. Guys, if you see if you see any round structure, what did I say, guys? Round structure close to the basement membrane, that is your spermatogonium. You with me? If you see a round structure somewhere in the middle, guys, that is your spermatocyte. Okay, guys? And if you see a round structure close to the lumen, what do you call that? Spermatid. So it's pretty easy. How do you differentiate the 3, guys? If you see a round cell close to the basement membrane, you call it what? Spermatogonium. It's all written here. If you see a round cell in the middle of the tubule, the seminiferous tubule, what do you call it? Spermatocyte. And if you see a round cell close to the lumen, you now call it what? Spermatid. And once this spermatid converts into a spermatozoon, close to the lumen, you see this dark spot, tail, dark spot, tail, dark spot, tail. That's a spermatozoon. What's that, guys?
Spermatozoa.
And spermatozoa has a head part and a tail part. Yes? And what's the last part, guys? How to identify the fertilized cells. I'll tell you now. I keep explaining. I'll explain how you forget it. And the most common mistake the student makes is to identify the fertilized cells. So listen to me, guys. On the exam, what is this whole tubule called? Seminiferous tubule. You see all these cells. On the exam, you listen to me, guys. Sure. On the exam, if the arrow is pointing to the seminiferous tubule, and if it's not a round cell or if it is not a spermatozoon, if it is a cell of any other shape, usually they are really thin and long. They are usually thin and rectangular. Okay, guys? Or really thin, or sometimes oval. Really oval. So if you see a cell that is not round, a cell that does not look like a spermatozoon, really long, rectangle, really long and thin, or long and oval nucleus. You with me, guys? That is what? Fertilized cell. Is that clear? Yeah, we're done with the. Let's now look at the pictures. You guys ready? I think this is easy, right? Get this testes, isn't it? Why? Because you see a lot of what? Seminiferous tubules, isn't it? So this connective tissue on the outside always is the albuginea. You can see these blood vessels. If you see connective tissue around the blood vessels, what do you call this layer? You the best. And what is each of this round structure? Seminiferous tubule, isn't it? And when you look at what is the whole structure, guys, this whole tube? Seminiferous tubule. And what is this green? Connective tissue around Invisalign. You're awesome. That's the basement. So can you see this connective tissue here on the outside here? This thin membrane on the outside, yes or no? That's the what?
Basement
membrane. If I go back to this picture here, guys, and if it's pointing to these cells, can you see these cells here? What are these cells?
Interstitial.
No, don't look at the label. I said, what are these cells here?
I know,
Oh, God.
but I call them interstitial.
Okay, I'm sorry. For no reason. So I said cell, I didn't say tissue, right? What are these cells? If it's pointing to these guys, if it says, what are these cells? I'm sorry, okay, I'm kidding. These are the what cells? They're the Leydig cells. You understand that, guys? They're the Leydig cells. Yes, if it says what is the name of the tissue, just say interstitial tissue, right? You're awesome. You with me, guys? All right. So now let's look at, you know where the basement membrane is. What is this empty space in the middle called?
Lumen.
That's the lumen. You're the best, guys. So on the exam, if it is pointed to any cell, can you see all this rounded cell, round cell, round cell, round cell, with the round nucleus, right? Yes. Close to the basement. What do you call these cells, guys? Spermatogonium, isn't it? You are the best. And if it's pointed to any round cell, can you see all these round cells in the middle? Yes? What are these? Spermatocytes. And then let me just click. Can you see this round cell close to the lumen? Yes, guys, these round cells very close to the lumen. What do you call those round cells? Spermatids. And if it is pointed to anything that looks like a dark spot and tail, that's basically what, guys? Now, that's everyone should be able to do that. And so here, can you see these cells that look more? Can you see the thin cells here? These thin cells, yes or no? These are the certolized cells, okay? Can you see these thin cells here, guys? Can you see these thin cells? It doesn't look anything round. If it's pointing to anything long and thin or long and rectangular, you will call it what? Or even oval nuclei. If you see some oval nuclei, you will call them what?
The certolized.
Certolized cells. So you understand how to identify the certain cells? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's look at the pictures that are not labeled. We went over. Did I miss anything? No.
This one? Or the female or no?
What did you do?
You want?
I'll be 10 minutes. Thank you so much. Thanks so much. Yeah, I know this is the testes. I don't like this picture a lot, but if it's pointing to this whole connective tissue called this tunica. Oh God, vessels is here. This is albuginia. You have blood vessels here, so this is what this connective tissue. Vasculosa. As I said, I don't like this picture, but you just need to know if there's a connective tissue on the outside, you call it what?
Albuginia.
Tunica albuginia, and if you see a connective tissue around blood vessels, you call it tunica. It should be very clear on the exam, okay, guys? Better than this, but still, this is albuginia. This tubule is called. You the best. They are called seminiferous tubules. And what are these cells here called between the two?
Leydig.
You are awesome. They're called the Leydig cells. And each of the seminiferous tubules, what are these empty spaces?
Lumen.
Lumen. Good job. It's hard to see here, but let's look at a bigger picture. Yeah. So this whole thing, what's this membrane on the outside? This membrane on the outside of the tubule? You are awesome. Basement membrane. So if it's pointing to anything, this rounded cell close to the basement membrane, what would you call these? Spermatogonia or spermatogonium. And if it's pointing to any cell in the middle, they are the spermatocytes. And anything round here. Can you see this round here? Yes, what is this round? Spermataid. And if it's pointing to this dark spot and tail, what is this whole thing? Spermatozoa. Good job. And as I said, anything that does not look round or spermatozoa, they are what? They are the cerulized cells. So you're listening to me, guys. On the exam, it points to anything. Can you see this whole pink area, guys? Or even these oval cells. Can you see this oval nuclei? So again, what did I say? Any cell that does not look round or spermatozoan, you would call them what?
Cerulized.
So just remember that. You should. If you don't remember that, you get that question wrong. Okay. All right. You understand what I said? All right. Here also, you can, if you know the drill, you can do it. Okay. Any questions? Any other quick questions? We have spent did the whole histology in 1 hour. You want to do the kidney histology? You guys good with that? Okay, let's do the kidney histology, and then we can do the cross anatomy from the beginning to the end.
Go out and practice.
Yeah, you can take it. So much for you. I'll bring it up here. Give me 1 minute. Right?
Are you ready? I only started.
Tomorrow, my son.
Morning. Nothing.
Why does
Because like I'm currently have like I guarantee to be because yes.
what's the name of the follicle? I said.
Oh.
Primordial follicle. You got it? What's the name of this whole follicle? It's a primordial follicle. But if it says, what is this epithelium? It's a simple squamous epithelium.
Yeah.
Now the next question, the third question you will get is, what is the name of these cells? Look at this, I've written it here on the board.
Follicular?
They are follicular cells. So what are the 3-4 possible questions you'll get? What is this whole thing? It's a follicle. What follicle? Primordial follicle.
Oh, wow.
What is the thing in the middle? That's an oocyte. And then it is pointing to these green cells and it says, what epithelium is this?
Simple squamous.
Simple squamous, you got it? But if it says, what is the name of these cells?
Right.
No, follicular. If it's
You are
one.
awesome. They're one layer cells, they're follicular cells. Sure, write it down, you got it.
Write it down, please.
Yeah, this is so
Okay, so the question you can get, okay, the question you can get is, so you get the similar questions for all the follicles, okay? No, it's not hard.
How do you know which one is asking you?
Okay, hold on. Do you know what this dark or this black cell in the middle is?
Oocyte.
Yes.
Right.
So if it is pointing to this cell, the arrow is pointing to this cell or the nucleus of the cell, this is question number 1. What is this?
Oocyte.
Oocyte. Okay, that's question number 1. And the question number 2 is what is this whole full thing?
That's a
It's a
Follicular.
follicle. And which follicle is it?
Primer.
So that's question
Ah,
number 2,
okay.
got it?
Right, now I see.
And the third question you will get is, okay, maybe it will not ask about the epithelium, but again, you know what this epithelium is. If it's one layer of,
Squamous
so if it says what is this epithelium, you can say that it is simple
Squamous.
squamous epithelium. But mostly it will ask, what is the name of these cells? What are these cells?
Follicular.
You said these are the, why? Because it's one layer, so you call it follicular cells, alright? I've written it here, alright? If you give me a wrong answer, I'm going to yell. What is this, guys? Follicular cells. Got it?
Yes.
Remember the first follicle?
What
Yes?
is the number 2 going to ask
It
again?
will say, what is this full structure?
Full structure.
Okay,
Full
can you
thing.
quiz me real quick?
Do you have to be specific? What if we just say follicle? Number 2.
No.
No, there are 4 types. You just said that there are 4 types of follicles.
Okay.
So you should know which one is it.
Wow.
So wait, on the test we have this.
Of course. You've read what follicle is it?
Is this histology? I did not study 7 and 8.
Yeah, so I'll start with the very basics so it will make more sense.